amount that we want to cover. So welcome to today's Wednesday webinar. We're talking forms and you're gonna love this. We actually are aiming today's Wednesday webinar specifically at the returning leader because new leaders might not be able to appreciate the fabulousness that is the new forms that we have. So we're going to jump right in because there are some important forms, and I laughed when I saw this because I thought everybody thinks that their forms are important if they're the ones asking people to fill them out. But these are important forms. In fact, the forms that were chosen to be updated this year are the forms that are the most frequently used. So I figured what we do is just go through and look at the updates, and you can cheer in your room and you'll be full of joy. It'll be super. So the first thing I have to do is pull up the website, right? So I've got my two screens and I'm figuring out just the right way to do it. Here is our beautiful website. Hooray, Girl Scouts of Maine. And you go to this tab, Forms and Resources, and very obviously click on Forms. And that first form that I've got in the list here is the volunteer application. You're going to love this. Now you're thinking, wait, I'm already an approved volunteer. Why do I care about this? I'll tell you why. Because you want to recruit people to also be volunteers, right? Whether they're working with your troop or they're working with a troop for your younger daughter or your older daughter or your neighbor, we want to recruit some other volunteers. So when you come to this forms page, if you click on membership registration application, it takes you down. We have two ways now that volunteers can apply. So they can do it directly online or they can do the writable PDF. So directly online, I laughed when I saw this because it's very, very stark, but it's got all of the lines. People just need to fill in just like they're filling out any other online application. And they'll click a next down here, and I believe there are a few more questions that they answer on the next page, but I found when I clicked next without filling it out, it gave me all sorts of red boxes telling me that there are stars indicating I have to fill out this section. So I can't show you, but I know that ultimately there's a submit button, and when they submit it, it goes directly to Julie Woodworth, who is the person who goes through and checks all the steps to approve volunteers. She's the one who talks to your references and all of that kind of stuff. So you can direct people right there to the online application, or if they're not hip to that, you can take them to the writable PDF. And it's a writable PDF of the volunteer application, which means that either they can fill it out here, type right into the box, or they can print it out like it's a regular old form and fill it out, or you can print a few out so you can hand them to people. We're trying to be flexible, and we're trying to make it easy for you to be flexible for the folks in your life so that we can help them become approved volunteers with Girl Scouts of Maine. So that's the first form, even though it's two forms, that's the first form that got updated, and it's just beautiful. And here, you gotta love this. The first thing we ask about is people's experience, and then we don't worry about some of their background until much later, which is great. It still gets asked, but its order of operations sometimes matters. Then this is the one I'm most excited about, and do shout out if I'm I know, right? Tori just said what a great turnout, which is really true. Tori and Tammy and I have had some really quiet moments on these Wednesday webinars, but yes, we've got a good group. This next one, the annual permission form, you're going to love, because the annual permission form is one that is going to make so many days easier, and the opportunities for you to be spontaneous much more frequent. So under health and safety, which is where most of our, I don't know, what I think of as our week-to-week troop forms are located, this annual permission form is one that you're going to want parents to fill out at your first meeting when you come back. And maybe some of you have already done this with your troops. Oh, good. Tori's saying she printed it out yesterday, and it is awesome. Yes. Hooray for Suzanne and her committee. This annual permission form, it's one that you want to fill out the very first day and look at all the permissions that it gives you. So the parent's going to fill in the girl's name and all that, And then you're going to get permission for activities. So anything that's a day trip that's not considered high risk and that occurs in Maine, by parents checking yes and initialing here, you have permission to take their girl to the fire department, to an easy local
Talking,
hike.
Dawn?
Yes?
You went quiet.
Oh, did I? Am I back?
Yep.
Okay, good. It happens sometimes, but please do let me know. I see. Thank you, Danielle, for typing in the comment section. I'll try to keep an eye on that. So it was probably me and not you guys is the moral of that story, Tori. Can you guys see the chat? Can everybody see the chat? Yes, good. So yeah, if you might have to type in caps because I don't necessarily look at it the whole time, but good. So for permission for activities, they can check yes, initial here, and suddenly you don't have to fill out a troop activity form every time your girls want to go to the police station or to the local library or on a walk around the neighborhood or to the ice cream parlor. It's a beautiful hot day. Let's go to the ice cream shop. Or it's a beautiful snowy day. Let's go tromp around town to see how pretty all the houses are with fresh snow or whatever. You don't have to fill out those extra forms. Now, if a parent checks no here and initials no, that means you'll get to fill out an extra permission form for that parent for those activities. But most of your parents are like, why do I have to fill out all these permission forms? And so they're going to be happy about this too. This also gives you permission to use photographs with the girls in them. And there are parents who opt out of having their girls in photographs. So we do have to respect that, but you want to know before you publish a picture, like in the local paper for some activity that the troop has done, or even on your private Facebook group. You don't want to use photographs of girls whose parents don't want them to be photographed. So it gives you that upfront permission right there. Permission to participate in product sales. We have traditionally had a separate permission slip for the fall product sale and the the cookie sale program. And this is it now. So it's all in the same place. And then finally, permission for emergency medical treatment. So if there were an emergency and you had to call 911, you've got permission here. And then the parent fills out this bottom part. And even though this signature of parent or guardian is writable, we really want that form signed by hand. So you could email this form out to your parents and have them complete it in the privacy of their own computer, but be sure to have them sign it by hand before they give it to you. So even if they put the electronic signature on there, give them a pen when they hand it to you and ask them to sign it by hand right there, because we do need that. And then what you're going to do with this form is you're going to make a copy and send it into permissions@gsmaine.org, permissions@gsmaine.org. And you can make a copy by photocopying, but you could also, if you've got a smartphone, take a picture. You take a picture of each one of the girls' forms and include them in an email and send them to permissions@gsmaine.org, and that'll do the thing too. So you'll be able to remember. I'm going to tell you where you're going to find all this information that says everything that I say really fast in the next 30 minutes. So you'll see. But right there, it's saving so much time and energy and paper, and hooray. Now at that first meeting, you're also going to have parents fill out the health history form. And really, you're filling out a health history form for each girl in your troop and each adult in your troop. This is a form that's kept confidential, so when you store them, you'll store them behind that annual permission form or you'll fold them up. But make sure that you remind parents that if there's something you need to know, say an allergy, that you need to know so that you don't put their child's health in peril, that it's important for them to tell you. And then you're going to keep these confidential health history records with the annual permission forms. And you know, what I always recommend to people is to keep them in something like this. I have my handy web pages up, a page protector, and you stick the annual permission form in the front and tuck the confidential health history behind so everybody's not seeing the health history issues. And you keep them in a folder. And then the reason I like keeping them in these individual sheet protectors, page protectors, is because then when you go in your carpools, you can sort out, okay, you 4 girls are in this car. Okay, these 4 page protectors with the information are in the car with those girls. Because in carpooling, cars often get separated, and if something happened and you needed information about girls, we want it to be with the girl it applies to. So there's that. Then, but wait, there's more. Yes. So I go back to my Happy Forms page. If the troop wants to do an activity that doesn't fall into the description that was on the annual permission form, like it's out of state, or it's not, or it's overnight, or it's a high-risk activity, then you do get to fill out an additional form, this troop activity form here. Now, this troop activity form, it's an all-in-one. I love it because you see here, there are different parts of it that you fill out for different things. So if your troop's taking a trip outside the state of Maine, maybe you're taking your troop to Strawberry Bank for a little bit of living history, then you'd fill out this section A, and you'd scroll down and fill out, okay, make sure I do it right. Yeah, and fill out section E down here at the bottom. And you submit it to your troop consultant or your volunteer support coordinator or your SUM or your membership manager to get your approval for that. But what if you are taking an overnight trip? Well, if you're doing an overnight trip, then you're going to do sections A and E, but you're also going to do section B right here at the top of the second page. And you fill out whether it's for 1 or 2 nights, 3 nights, are you going camping, or are you going international, and you'll attach a trip itinerary there. And the trip itinerary, you want to be sure to include a plan B, of course. If you're doing a high-risk activity, you do section C. And if you're doing additional money earning, you're going to fill out just sections D and E. So additional money earning would be like your troop has participated in fall products and the cookie sale, or plans to, but they know that they want to do an activity that's going to cost more, and so they want to do a bake sale or a yard sale or a small auction. Then they would fill out this part and submit this. And by they, I mean you as a troop. So you might not set your brownies to filling that out, but you might. And then you're going to submit it to get approval. So lots and lots of purposes for this one piece of paper, but because of that annual permission form, you're still going to be using a lot less frequently than you were using the old activity form. Now, you're thinking, well, what about, how do I get permission for these things that are covered on this troop activity form? And boy, am I glad you asked, because then you do the permission form. And writable PDF, so right there you can fill it out on your computer, send it to your parents. They fill out the bottom part. We even gave them the scissors to show them you're going to tear it here and give that bottom part to the leaders so that you have that. When you get this, tuck it into the back of the page protector for each girl so you know that her permission form is in for that activity, and boom, you're ready to go. Now, how are you going to remember all of this? Oh, no, I don't want to tell you yet. I should. Should I? Yes, do. No, let me tell you about one more form, and then I'll come back to that. I know, it's crazy. This one more form, super, like if you've just done your TTR, or if you haven't done your TTR yet, you're going to love this form, because this form takes the place of the Troop Treasurers Report. This form is the annual financial and troop activity report. And this box right here at the top, that's what you love about it, because your troop number, service unit, your beginning balance, so what the balance in your account was in September, and then how much money did the troop earn this year or bring in, and how much money did the troop spend this year, and then what's the ending balance. And you attach your bank statement, and I'm going to say your May bank statement, because you're supposed to turn it in by July 1st. So that means you're doing it in June, so you're really going to have to include your May bank statement probably. Unless you figured out a different way to do it, then do it the way that you figured out. If there's a difference between your report and the bank statement, explain why here. Oh, we wrote 2 more checks after after the statement cleared, or we got a donation after this statement cleared. And then whatever your upcoming plans are for the ending balance, our fall activities or plans for using the ending balance. So suddenly that's a lot easier than filling out all those different, we spent this much on supplies, we spent this much on equipment, we spent this much on the Juliet Lowe World Fund, and breaking everything down by category. But there are more lines to this page. Oh, my audio is fading. I'm sorry. I probably leaned back in my zeal. Can you hear me now? Anyone? And nobody's replying either way. So let me type that. Can you hear me? Oh, poor me. Okay. I wonder. Yeah, at all. Okay. Rats. Let's see if I can change my audio. So I'm going to switch.
Oh, cool. I got you now. For now.
Am I back? I'm back.
Yep.
Huzzah. Okay. So this annual financial report, after you fill out the first part, the next sections are just talking, and we really want you to fill this out with your girls. So what journeys did your troop do this year? What badges did you do this year? What events and programs did you go to that were council sponsored, service unit sponsored? What did your troop do that you really enjoyed as a troop? So this is very much your whole troop gets involved in filling this part out. What community service projects did you do? Did you participate in the fall product sale, and if not, why? Did you do the cookie sale, and if not, why? What other money earning activities did you do? And did you collect dues? A lot of this information, we're really just curious because we know what we did when we were in troops, if we had troops, but none of us on staff have troops now, and some people on service teams don't have current troops. And so most of us don't know what other people do in their troops with things like this. So we're trying to collect some information so that we know what's going on and can share information with each other and say, oh, did you know most troops have dues and for this much per week, or most troops don't do dues and here's why. Information like that. And then, do you plan to continue next year? Because we want to know if you don't plan to continue next year, and what we can do if there are girls in the troop who want to continue, or if we can help you get over whatever the hump is so that you'll want to continue, because, we hope that you want to continue. So those are the new forms. All of those are the many varied and unusual new forms that we have. Does anybody who's here? Absolutely. I was just going to say, go ahead.
It's not actually about the form itself, but I have a question about the ending balance.
Uh-huh.
We were just brand new daisies, so we didn't have a whole lot of money anyway, but what's an acceptable ending balance, knowing that if the girls stick with you, things are very expensive as they get older,
right?
And they may not be spending as much money in the beginning. I kind of get the feeling like we're supposed to spend, but...
Well, I would say you never want to zero out unless the troop is not coming back. Right. When they are graduating from high school, then sure, zero out. But otherwise, because the big money earning point is when cookie money comes in at the end of March, you do want to save some money for those fall and winter activities. And that's why I encourage troops to look at their budgets in December so that when they're planning their cookie sale, they can make goals around what they want to do for the next 12 months. And acceptable is going to be different from troop to troop. If you have a troop that wants to go to the Boston Museum of Science, for example, that's a hefty price tag for 12, 15 girls. So you'd want to carry over more money than if you've got a troop that is interested in doing a lot of crafts but really doesn't plan on going to very many events. So thinking about what the troop's interests are.
When we use terms a lot and a little, like what kind of ending balances does headquarters say is okay? What are people looking at and going, yep, that looks reasonable to us?
Well, Heather and Beth, you guys are membership managers, so you see a lot more of these end of year things. What's a lot for a troop to carry over and what's a little? Because I have my thoughts, but my thoughts are based on the troops that I worked with who did a lot of travel. So do you guys...
Heather's actually on the phone right now, and
Okay.
I don't have much of a voice, so I'll do what I can.
Okay.
Let's see. In looking at, numbers, as you said, it really is a matter of perspective and what the girls have planned. So you wouldn't want to have a huge balance that the girls have earned all this money, but they're not using it towards things. We really want that girl-led planning, having them decide what they're going to do, even if it's something that's in the outer rings of the bullseye, if you know what I mean. So it should be, the money should be spoken for, earmarked for something. Otherwise, maybe they have a lofty goal for their money earning and they don't have plans for it, and that's not what we want. We want the girls to be earning and setting goals and then earning the money, learning that financial literacy piece. How do we make things happen?
So, Beth, what's a normal amount for a brownie troop, say, to carry over?
Well, if you look at, there could be, especially if they're saving for some fall activities at minimum, never mind what they might do the entire rest of the next year or the next 12 months.
Right.
So I'd say, it's hard to give a number, but I'd say maybe a couple hundred, because if they're going to go on any trips at all and they've got 10, 12, 15 girls, that could be a little pricey. Plus, you want to have money for your badges and patches that the girls might be earning to start the year.
Right.
If you welcome new members, you want to give them a membership pin. If you need troop supplies for your meetings.
So suddenly I'm
you.
hearing like $500.
It could be more. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we carried over almost 1,000. Was that a problem?
No, but again, Tori, your troops started late and started right with the cookie sale, and they were those cute little daisies, so they made a ton of money. How could you have spent that much money in just a couple of months? So the important part will be for them to plan some activities where they get to benefit from the amount that they've earned.
Well, that's the hope, is that we would do. The girls kind of pittered off in the summer. We didn't want to spend their money in the summer for only partial girls attending.
Right.
And we have just, after we send in our report, we bought them all their vests. But we didn't decide not to bridge until October,
right?
Until the end of September. So since we hadn't planned our bridging yet, we hadn't spent the money for bridging yet.
Right.
So I guess I was just concerned because I keep hearing it sounding like I should have spent that money before the report came out, and it is a lot of money to have in there, but it is spoken for too.
Right.
And we didn't want to be left with nothing for fall. There's some really great activities in the Compass.
Yeah, and the membership managers definitely know that. Even the auditors definitely know that. That's why the line is in there for, do you have upcoming plans for your ending balance? Because some people don't think into the fall, and so they work with the troop to zero it out, and then they get to fall and they're like, well, we have 37 cents, so what are we going to do? And that's hard. Because then you have to ask for more dues or come up with some other strategy. The fall product sale helps if you've got a low ending balance, if you come into the fall with a low balance. But the cookie money, especially for those little guys, brings in so much money that I think it's nice to spread the joy over the course of the year, so that certainly you're able to buy badges and patches and journeys, and you're able to do a fun activity in each season, instead of just saving it all for May, which doesn't seem like everything in life does a whole bunch of really fun stuff in May, and then there's nothing at other times. So yeah, good question. And as long as you can see how the girls might spend it over the next year or so, it's probably a reasonable balance. And if you ever have a question, you can go to your membership manager or your troop consultant and say, is this okay? Are we on course, or should we think about some other things?
As much as $1,000 is a lot of money, it's nothing as soon as you start buying pins and patches.
Exactly.
We didn't do that last year.
Exactly. Well, and where you guys bought vests and things, it goes fast. So
it does go fast. And we also were planning for the fact that in the fall we had a certain amount of girls that earned cookie money, but in the fall we're accepting more girls.
Right.
They haven't earned anything. It's not like we're going to go, you didn't earn anything, we're not going to share. Of course we're going to share. We can make sure that money's available.
Exactly, because it is troop money. Very good. Yeah, you're thinking. So let me show everybody how you're going to remember all these bits about these forms. So I click to the next page. The Troop Activity Guide is a new document that we've come up with. And this page I've highlighted. This is just one page in the Troop Activity Guide, but it is your Troop Activity Approval at a Glance chart. Because as you make that transition from what we used to do with having activity forms for almost every activity to having the annual permission form and then the other form, it could be confusing. So we have an at a glance, and I apologize for it's being fuzzy here. It is not fuzzy when you see it in person, but it's oriented the other way in the document I'm going to show you in a minute, so I wanted to show it to you horizontally here. It reminds you that for day trips that are up to 7 hours long, including the drive, so that's going to be different for people who live in Aroostook, from people who live in Washington County, from people who live in York County, and everybody in between. But things that are a reasonable day trip, you don't need to file if it's a council-sponsored event. So even Strawberry Bank, which is in Portsmouth, if you're going as part of a GSME program, or to the Boston Museum of Science as a GSME program, you don't need to file any additional forms. But then it reminds you about the money earning for brownies and up if they're doing additional money earning 3 weeks prior. Now these dates we've put here when you need to file, with the thinking that if it gets turned in and you're missing something, this will give you some time to go back and make sure that you've got it covered. So I'm not sure what would be missing on the 3 weeks prior for the money earning, but for the high risk activities, you often need somebody who has a certificate, or at least one of the approved volunteers needs some additional training. And so we ask for 4 weeks prior on high risk and overnight trips to make sure that you're going to have your bases covered when you turn it in. Same with the 3 months prior for those 3 nights or more trips, or 6 months for Canada trips, or 2 years for international trips. And really these two are as much for the girls to be able to earn the money to be able to go on it. So the girls are getting time to do their preparation, as well as the volunteers associated with the troop having time to get the training that they need, and all of us to make sure that it's going to be a safe and therefore fun trip for everybody. So now I got to take you back to the website though, because I want to show you that troop activity guide in the way it really looks. So pardon me as I scroll. If we go back to Forms and Resources, this time going to Resources, click on the word Resources and not Safety Activity Checkpoints, and it takes you to our Resources page. And this page has a lot of terrific things that you can use, including the newly updated troop planning calendar, the GSME Superstar Troop Challenge, which are 2 terrific tools for you to use as your troop is planning their activities for the coming year. The updated Volunteer Essentials, which is beautiful and available here as a downloadable PDF. People who go to Troop Pathway Training, of course, will be offered the option for a hard copy or for a flash drive with the PDF on it also. The updated safety activity checkpoints, which are new and snazzy and have all kinds of new safety activity checkpoints, including indoor trampolining. But sorry, ladies, you still cannot go zorbing. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's funny. But here's the troop activity guide. And this, every troop at your September leaders meeting, every troop in the state will be receiving 1 printed copy of this. But it is available, obviously, here as a PDF that you can download. And new leaders will be getting a copy of it, as well as, or the option to have it on their flash drive. So there was the pretty troop activity approval at a glance chart, and you see it's vertical here, so I thought it would be harder to read, but it's clearer. So there's that. And then it goes through, it's only 12 pages long, and it goes through the planning process. And this is a document I strongly encourage you to use right along with your girls and right along with those forms. It helps you figure out how to use the new forms and how to get the girls involved in that planning piece. So here on this the first page of text, it's really page 3, it breaks down the planning process into these 6 categories. And these are 6 categories that are highlighted in the following pages. You could actually take each of these categories and assign it to a patrol with your troop. Or if your girls are a little bit older, give each girl one of these sections that she's going to be responsible to lead the rest of the troop as you do it. And then as you go through the troop activity guide, you'll see each of these sections is highlighted. But what I want to first do is jump to the very last page, because these steps in this checklist are the very same steps that you'll find on the very back page, the activity planning checklist. And here they're in order basically of how they would be done. So on the first one, on page 3,
come in and get them. I'm listening.
On page 3, they're organized by the category they fall in under the troop activity guide, but on this last page, they're in the order of how they'd be done. Just, okay, close your eyes if you get motion sickness. We're going back up to page 3 just so I can scan through here. Okay, so the troop activity guide starts right in with girl-led planning. Lots of volunteers say, how do daisies do girl-led planning? They do it with your support and your facilitation. And your job is the hardest job. So this gives you some tips on questions to ask with the girls and how to facilitate their being able to take some leadership in the planning. And how you still get to participate in it too, because we know you volunteer because you've got a ton of great ideas. And it goes through where you need council approval. It really takes that troop at a glance, the troop approval at a glance page, and it breaks it down and puts it into words and sentences if that's more how your mind works. Gives you some suggestions.
I'm doing an education session.
Exactly. It gives you some suggestions on types of additional money earning that are generally approved. So those are ideas that might work for you. It also gives you some places to look if you're looking for ideas, and if you want to make sure that you've got your bases covered and what training you need, what approval you need, how many adults you need. This gives you the girl-adult ratios here. We've got it. This chart appears all over the place. So you really want to make sure that all of your adults are on board with how many adults do we need when we're at a meeting and how many adults do we need when we're out doing something else. And then we go into safety. You get lots of information about safety. I'm obviously not going to read the document to you. It's only 12 pages, and you can read, so you'll enjoy this. See, I'm telling you, I'm like starting that whole thing. You will enjoy reading this. You really will. The sensitive issues, since I stopped with puberty right at my eye level, sensitive issues, it reminds you that you do want to do a permission form if you're going to be talking, if you know you're going to be talking about sensitive issues with the girls in your troop, so that parents are on board and we're respecting people's beliefs. Talks about transporting girls when you need that troop activity form, and then we gave some examples for clarification. Some people might not be clear on what activities are and what high-risk activities are, so we've explained again, and we've given some examples. People might not understand what the role of additional children at Trooper Service Unit events are, and how you might work with that, or different money earning activities, or overnight trips, and then ultimately progression, which I think is one of the greatest things that we offer with Girl Scouts, that concept of progression, certainly for our girls and even for our grown-ups. And so we went into some explanation here about how you can work with progression with your girls. So it's a 12-page document that will support you as you're filling out forms and preparing, and it is absolutely meant to use with your girls in the process. Let me see. And that's that. So tell me, do you have any questions? Does anybody have any questions or thoughts, or was there anything that wasn't clear?
I know this is a lot of work for the people that put it together, and I think they did a fabulous job.
It definitely, well, and you know, I'm glad you brought it up, Tori, because the forms alone, I mean, those 7 or 8 forms, that was actually a committee of volunteers and staff members from all over the state. There were 7 people involved, half of them volunteers and half of them staff. So how do you, that's 7th person. But it's something that took them a few months of really talking things out and thinking things through and looking at every form and saying, why do we have this form and why do we ask people to fill it out and what do we need? So that was involved a lot of thought. Yeah, Heather, we did talk about the extra permission form. I think that was when you were on the phone. And what it always comes back to is if you have a question, if you are, your troop wants to do something and you're thinking, oh no, is this covered by the annual form or do we need an additional form? Pick up the phone, give a call, or send me an email, or send your M&M an email, or send your TC an email and ask. because we're happy to help. And that's one of the great things about Girl Scouts is there's always somebody who's happy to help you figure things out to make it the best for you and therefore the best for your girls. Any other questions or anything that people can think of? Because this is just like perfect timing. I'm going to post the recording of this on the GSME Volunteer Swap on Facebook. Tell your friends. And I also know that at every single one of the September leader meetings this year, this will be a topic that comes up. And so if you think of questions, feel welcome to ask them there. Or if you observe things, if you notice things, like Tori, you said you've already pulled them out and you've started using them, share things that you've figured out with those other volunteers, because we learn best from each other. So thank you all for coming. I'm so glad you came. Next week we'll be talking daisies and brownies, and I don't have a topic yet, so if you've got a daisy or brownie troop and you have an idea that you'd like to talk about this September, post it on the Volunteer Swap or give me a call. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.